Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Elena and I am an English teacher in Busan, South Korea. For this week's video, I am very excited because I'm going to be reacting to Millennial Money's living on $24,000 a year in Seoul, South Korea. So if you're interested to see my reaction on it as an English teacher in South Korea as well, then just keep on watching. Okay, so my first impressions on the title is her salary. So it's actually quite impressive that she makes $24,000 a year as an English teacher in South Korea. When I did the calculations, that's about what, $2,000 a month, which is about 2.4-ish million won per month, which that would be like a really high starting salary. So if it's her first year, props to you for negotiating that salary, because that's really impressive to get 2.4 million. Usually if you're coming into Korea for the very first time, your starting salary is about 2.2 million won. Just a quick note here, I had a look at a job board and it looks like the minimum salary has risen to 2.3 million won per month, which is like for the first time in like 15 years from what I hear, and that equals to $1,952.60. And my question for her is this her net salary? Because before we even get our check, we have a few things taken out, like our pension and our health insurance. And for me, my internet gets taken out because my boss pays for it. So after my 2.2 million won salary, I end up with 960,000 won. So that is my question for her, because that kind of makes a big difference here. Let's watch. I am very excited to watch this.
I could not afford this lifestyle if I was living in the US, because I go to cafes every weekend. But if I was living in the US, I would be paying for a car. I'd be paying for insurance for that car. I'd be paying a huge amount for health insurance. And most likely, most of my paycheck would be going towards rent. So no, I probably couldn't afford a lifestyle.
Okay, so my initial impression is that I do agree with her. Of course, life in the US is like way more expensive. So for $24,000, you can live pretty comfortably in Korea. As she mentioned, health insurance, I pay about 100,000 won per month for health insurance, which comes out to be about $90 per month. And going to cafes, yeah, that's like a big thing in Korea. That's like where you socialize. You know, in the US, we do go out to eat to dinner. So I guess it's kind of like the same thing, except that in Korea, the cafes here are more like, if she's actually talking about a cafe rather than a restaurant, they're more like dessert and coffee. So it's a little bit cheaper. Yeah. And with transportation, as she mentioned, if you're living in Seoul or where I live, I'm in Busan, yeah, you don't need a car. It's really not necessary. The public transportation here is great and very cheap. It's about $1 each way.
A lifestyle like this in the United States. My name is Michaela Krikyo. I'm 26 years old. I make $24,000 a year and I live in Seoul, South Korea. I'm an English teacher in South Korea. I work at an English academy called a Hagwon. I teach kindergarten to elementary school students, and this is my second year teaching in the country.
Ha! There it is, second year. So she would have negotiated the salary to 2.4 million won. As I said, 2.4 is a pretty high starting salary. And just looking at her apartment, I have seen so many of these. I'm actually looking for apartments now. I'm going to be moving on December 1st to a new apartment. Thank the Lord, I'm so excited. I've been living in this tiny box. So I'm sure she lived in a tiny box her first year in Korea. Like, it's just how you get in, you know? You gotta rough it out the first year and live in a little box. Her apartment, from my first impressions, I mean, it looks like your standard kind of studio apartment. You got those crazy red, like, backsplash there in the kitchen, which is funny. But yeah, so it's her second year. So that's how she was able to negotiate a higher salary.
It's not an easy job, but it also depends on what country you decide to go to. I love Korea, but the work culture may be intense for somebody who comes from, Western culture.
I do agree with that. The work culture here is really intense. People always tend to work overtime, long hours. And Hagwons especially, which is where I work, it's like a private academy that kids go to after they go to school. Yeah, these kids study like nonstop. Except for us, we're working at two different types of Hagwons. She's working with the little kids, like the preschool, kindergarten, some elementary school. So her schedule is probably from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. So that's about a 9-hour work day. And she's more likely getting about 2 hours of break total during the day, I'm gonna guess. And I work with the elementary and middle schoolers. So I work from 1 until 9. So our schedules are a little bit different.
It is not easy to teach English, even if you are a native speaker, because as native speakers, we grew up learning the language differently. And for me, I have actually taught my fair share of grammar classes, and some of the things, the concepts and stuff, I didn't realize,
I like seeing her suitcases there. Is that her like second closet, or is she using them to store clothes in, or did she just move in? Maybe she just moved into this apartment. She said she's into her second year, so maybe she just moved. But I can relate. I did have a second suitcase. I gave it away, but both of my suitcases were just like full of my clothes from like the other season that's not happening right now. And she probably has no space to put them. How much you want to bet she has no space to put them? So that's the only place that she can put the suitcases, because her apartment is probably quite tiny.
That I maybe have been using them wrong, like whether it's speaking or writing. When I graduated from college, I decided to go work for the hospitality industry. I worked for 2 different cruise ship companies, and I was able to save a lot of money because it's rent-free, and yes, you do work a lot of hours, but it's rent-free.
Wow, that's a really high cost to get your TOEFL certificate, which is probably what she got, which is like teaching English as a second language, as a foreign language. Yeah, that's really high. I hope my boss's son doesn't see this because he has access to my videos, but I got mine online at this like random little website, and I paid like $80, and it took me like a week and a half to get through it. But I had experience teaching English, so for me it was like, I've already taught English. I already know like the basic concepts of teaching English. So I felt like I probably wouldn't get too much out of it. I mean, maybe I would, I don't know. For me, it just wasn't worth the cost. So what I'm gonna guess is $1,300, she might have gotten it abroad. Like some people will go into different countries to get their TOEFL certificate. I know a couple of people who did that. So $1,300, that's pretty high.
It's actually really easy to become a certified English teacher abroad. So the steps that you have to take is, first of all, you need to have a bachelor's degree to work in Asia. And the next step would be to get your TOEFL certification. It's kind of like taking a basic college course.
Girl, you gotta iron your shirt.
Because you get to experience a whole new culture, customs, food, meet incredible people. Like, you get to meet many expats. I've created such strong friendships here.
So many expats.
I would have never been exposed to if I decided to stay home. Living abroad obviously still has its fair share of problems. If you don't speak the language, it's going to be harder here. I still have a difficult time doing even the most basic things like going to the doctor. And so you have to mentally prepare yourself to deal with even going to the grocery store can be hard. If you come to Korea, don't buy.
Girl, I'm right with you there. I think that's kind of like a double-edged sword with living abroad. It makes life way more exciting. Things like going to the bank or going to the store or paying like your light bill. It's more exciting. All the most mundane tasks, they take a lot more mental energy, and you do have to prepare yourself. Like, before I go anywhere, I do feel like I have to like mentally brace myself for going there, because it's going to be navigating in a foreign language that I do not speak a lick of. And yeah, it can be mentally taxing. It can be really, really draining, especially in the beginning. I remember when I started Peace Corps in Morocco, my very first like 2 months that I spent there, I would be going to sleep at like 8 o'clock at night because I was so mentally drained from navigating the world in a whole different language.
Doritos because they taste sweet. At least to me they do.
Everything is sweet in Korea.
I'm good with money now that I'm older. Before I wasn't, but I've learned a lot living on my own and living abroad and realizing I'm on my own out here, 7,000 miles away from.
Okay, that's about what I make per month. Like, almost to the dollar, I make this much per month, just like she does. So I'm interested to see how we compare. With food, I definitely spend probably more on food. $391? That's pretty low on food. I'm surprised. I guess maybe she literally just goes to the cafe and like never goes out to eat, never orders out like takeout. That's pretty low. I think I spend a little bit more than that. I would say I probably spend about $500 per month on food. Let's see, utilities, $154. That's about what I spend during the summers, which is actually really high. During the winters, the highest I've spent was about 300,000 won, which is, I would say, like 270,000 won. Transportation, I probably spend less than she does. Because I just walk to school. I live right next to the school, so I don't need to take any public transportation. I'm not paying any student loans. Health insurance is included like in your salary. Like, it's automatically taken off of your check. It's automatically taken out of your check, so you don't even see that. And you do get national health insurance, which like every Korean has. And it is about the same. It's like I said, it was like 90,000 won, 99,000 won. So it's probably about the same as hers. Yeah, let's keep
Where
watching.
I grew up.
My phone is like $15 a month.
Getting paid once a month has helped me budget very well. I used to be bad at budgeting, but now, because only getting paid once a month, it definitely helps you know where your expenses are going, where to, use your money wisely, and when to be. Expenses are going.
Girl, iron your shirt, please. I'm so distracted.
But it's definitely helped me become more conscious of how I spend my money. My rent is actually covered by my school, which is very nice. So that takes a huge rent
Yes, rent is included. So that budget, if you didn't notice, there is no rent in her budget. And it is included in Seoul. An apartment is about 500,000 won per month, which is, I don't know, maybe about $450 per month. In Busan, it's about 350,000 won, which is, maybe like 310 bucks per month.
Chunk out of my expenses. But as an English teacher in South Korea, you're responsible for covering your utilities. So that's
Wow, her apartment is very small.
Internet, but all those things are really, really cheap compared to what you would pay in, say, the United States. My internet's very low. It's maybe around $15 a month. And then for the utilities, that's under $100. So I try to go to the grocery store every week because I try to cook at home as much as I can because I go out so much during the week.
$35 a week, girl. Where are you eating ramen? That's really cheap. I definitely don't spend that much on groceries. I would say I spend maybe 120,000 won. So maybe like 110 bucks per week on groceries. I don't know what she's eating. I mean, I do eat like more vegetables and I try to eat more whole foods. So I'm not sure what she's eating. I'm guessing maybe pastas and things like that are pretty filling. I don't know, that's really low.
Weekends, so I know where I have to cut back. This is also like where my budgeting comes in because I usually only try to eat out 2 times a week. In Korea, the produce, like the fruits and vegetables, they are so expensive here. So I only get like a select few of like buying fruits and vegetables. I mainly try to eat rice, the cheaper.
Yes.
So I only get like a select few of like buying fruits and vegetables. I mainly try to eat rice, the cheaper frozen vegetables, and some of the meats. But overall, grocery shopping can be a little bit more pricey here, I would say.
$35. I'm not believing that, man. $35 to go out with friends on the weekends? What? Where is she going? I was in Seoul and literally we had breakfast for $20. Breakfast for $20. So I guess she's just like orders coffee. Maybe she, like I said, maybe she does go to cafes and she just orders coffee. Because that's like really cheap. I mean, I definitely spend, I go out to eat once, maybe twice a week. And I definitely don't spend that much or that little. I think I spend more than that.
Weekend, I usually spend around 35.
Soulism. I know that place. It's a really nice cafe. We were gonna go there. It's super Instagram friendly.
Birthday celebration, away parties for friends that are leaving. That's going to cost a little bit more, so I would add about $10, $15 to that amount.
We got commercials.
I wasn't paying it before because of the COVID relief, which is still actually going on now. But because of the interest, I decided to pay on the principal so that I can get more knocked off.
Very smart.
Right now, I started paying about $100 a month, which was about $10 more than I was paying. But when I have extra money lying around, I will up that cost to maybe $130 a month. My overall goal is to have it paid within the next 3 or, maybe adding on extra year, 4 years. Because my mindset is
for $15,000, she can get that paid off in a year and a half. She can. However, Seoul is more expensive to live in, so.
Pay it off in a shorter amount of time. I try to put half of my paycheck into my savings account, and then I have to divvy up those other amounts for student loans and for investing. So I do it.
$650 a month, that's pretty good. That's about the same as me. I save about $500 per month, but I'm also paying $250 per month on braces. So if it wasn't for braces, I would be saving about the same, and I'm actually gonna up my savings to a lot more very soon. So yeah, we're about on par as far as savings goes.
All myself. I feel content about the money I make here in South Korea. I'm the type of person, I don't need a lot of money to be happy. I need enough to travel, and that's really just about it for me, travel and experience.
That's so cheap.
People from the outside looking in would say $24,000 a year, that's nothing. How do you live? Like, I know it's a very small amount, but for me, it really doesn't matter. As I said, as long as I have enough money to travel, I'm completely okay with, making enough to cover my basic needs and do the traveling. Sometimes I get lonely living here when it comes to my family and some friends that I have back home because, I've been relying on FaceTime the past year or so. But with my friends here, I've been lucky enough to find fellow expat, English-speaking friends here. So it's really nice to have people.
It can be very lonely.
Have the same job as you, have the same reasons for coming to South Korea as you do. It feels absolutely surreal now to actually be able to travel because I never thought that I was going to be able to do this. I'll be really honest. Never thought that I was going to leave the United States.
Fun fact, Korea has about 175,000 Americans living there. And that's just Americans. And in order to be an English teacher, you have to be from one of 7 English-speaking countries. So there are a lot of expats to be meeting. So there's no excuse to not socialize.
Living a nomadic lifestyle to me means working for my computer and maybe working for an English school part-time because I do like to teach English. I just don't know if I want to continue it full-time. I also do a little bit of freelancing on the side, so I'm hoping that I can change that into a full-time career, which will allow me to live anywhere in the world, work for any company. The biggest misconception about living abroad is that it's not all sunshine.
Fact check. 99% of us don't want to be an English teacher forever. For most of us, it's just like a gap year kind of thing, or just like in between career changes, or just something to do for a short-term thing. I know I've known a lot of classmates of mine that taught in South Korea. I think all of them plan to be there for about a year, but they've all stayed here for about 3 to 5 years. I also plan to be here a year, but I'm actually going to be here for about 2 years because it's comfortable. It's a pretty comfortable life and convenient and easy to adapt to. And as I said, there's a lot of people you can make friends with. So it's a pretty realistic, I guess, look at life in South Korea. Like I said, the only things I was really shocked about are her food expenses and her eating out expenses. I mean, maybe she is eating a lot of rice, like she said, but $35, that's very low. And every time I go on my weekly shopping trips, I spend about $70. But then throughout the week, I'll come back and get a thing here and a thing there. So it probably would add up to be about $100 a week for groceries. And then with cafes, I mean, one coffee can be somewhere around $4. So that's just a coffee. Then if you get a dessert, that's about $7. And what if you want a sandwich? That's going to be about $10. So that can add up really quickly. So I'm a little bit surprised with her food expenses and her travel expenses. I mean, maybe she averaged it out. We get 2 week-long vacations during the year. So maybe she just averaged it out per month and it came out to be about $60 to $70. Otherwise, that's pretty low. I mean, just a single bus ticket can be about $30. Yeah. So those were my reactions to her video. If you found it to be interesting and if you want to learn more about what it's like to live abroad or just anything about Korea, please don't forget to subscribe or share this video with somebody who you think would find it entertaining. And please comment below and let me know what you think. If you're in Korea, like how do you compare to her life or to my life as to what I said in the video? Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.